Hello everybody, this is Dinah Rose and I am here to bring you another review for Love and Marriage Huntsville. This is season 3 episode 12 and it was called Big Depression Energy. So I did miss the last 2 episodes providing a review because I was in Mexico. I was in Mexico with some friends of mine. We were celebrating a birthday, one of my best friend's birthday, and it was a great time. And I'm actually hoping to bring you guys some video and pictures from that trip and maybe kind of discuss some things about what we did to travel safe during the pandemic, and also just how beautiful the island is if you wanted to go someplace that was safe, and especially safe for Black women who are traveling in groups or by themselves. This will be a video for that. But I'm going to get into the review with Love and Marriage Huntsville. I'll give you a little short synopsis of what happened with the last 2 episodes as well. So they were in Vegas. Melody and Martell are still fighting. They're fighting in the house. At one point in the house, the producers had to call Marsau to help them physically restrain Martell because he was trying to get in Melody's face. What I'm not for sure. He was just kind of upset about everything. Specifically, it sounds like he had come into her room one night after the big blowout when they were driving those little cars. I forgot the name of the car, but he had come into her room like at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I guess was trying to hit her up for a little something. She played sleep. I don't know what she did, but she outed him, and it just went all downhill from there. She told him, what was you in my room for? To let basically the television audience and whoever is sleeping with Martell outside of this TV show let you know that he still wants that old thing back. We all know he does. But Martell didn't like that too much, so he huffed and puffed and tried to blow Melody's house in. They went back and forth. He had a lot of words about how she, I don't know, maybe isn't a good mother, according to him. Tisha and Marsau, they in Vegas finally get to a point where they are kind of openly sharing to the group that they're in a bad place in their marriage. Marsau is telling it to the guys. Tisha also kind of shared it with the girls, but Tisha was like, we're still trying to get it together. I know some things haven't been the same. It hasn't been the same in the last 3 years. And in the last 3 years, they've been taping the show, and that's when pretty much the internet was on fire that Marsau was cheating. I guess that has really put some stress on their marriage. While they were in Vegas, Tisha wanted to do a vow renewal. She talked to Marsau about it. He told her absolutely not, that he wasn't comfortable doing it. His reasons were that he didn't want to do anything so publicly in the faces of like Melody and Martell and also Destiny, who have been freshly divorced, that they had made a agreement, I guess, when they first got married, that they would renew their vows at year 25, and he just wanted to stay on that road. So he didn't want to do that. Tisha said she understood and agreed not to do it. She went to her friends. She went to Tiffany and Lewis, and I guess pretty much everybody in the group. We saw Tiffany and Lewis, though, where she lets them know we're not going to do that. And they kind of talked her into doing it anyway. Let's just go anyway and see what happens. Maybe we can get them up there to say a few words about you. And that was really the wrong road, because once they got there, everybody as a group, they think they made a request like, is there anyone who wants to get up and renew their vows? And Tiffany and Lewis got up and said a few words to each other, and I think they've only been married for like 10 or 11 months. But people was like, going up there, Marsau, say how much you love Tisha, even if you don't do like a vow renewal. And Marsau again said absolutely not. Tisha said that she would have been embarrassed if she had not talked to Marsau before, and Marsau had told her that's not what he wanted to do. But everybody else in the group, when they were on their confessional, basically said they did suffer some secondhand embarrassment for Tisha, because at the very minimum, Marsau could have gotten up and just said, this is my wife for 15 years, the mother of my children. I really love her. And he refused. He refused to do it. So anyway, good luck to them. I hate that that's happening. I think at some point, too, also the brother was like, he doesn't feel sorry for Tisha, that she should know who she's married to. Ugh, I don't know what to say. So this past episode, which was the Big Depression energy episode. Everyone is packing their things. They're ready to leave the Airbnb in Vegas. Kimmy comes into Tisha's room and she asked if it bothered her that Marsau wouldn't get up and say anything or renew their vows. And Tisha immediately gets teary-eyed and she tells her that the last 3 years, things have been really rocky between her and Marsau. And that is the reason why she's been trying to get him to do therapy and other things. And Tisha said, that's the Scott brothers. I'm married to a Scott, you're married to a Scott. Why don't the two of us be there for each other, basically? And they have to compromise a lot for, their husbands and what they're doing business-wise. So they both agree to be a better support to each other. They go to Tiffany and Lewis. They're in their room, and Tiffany is telling Lewis that she and Destiny are going to meet once they get back to Huntsville to discuss the bad blood between each other and hopefully get on better terms, because they had a little bit of a spat where Destiny, I keep forgetting everybody's name. Destiny told Tiffany she was going to drag her over some stuff that she was saying to Tisha about Tisha's relationship. I guess that struck Destiny the wrong way, and she decided to take up for Tisha in that moment, and she told her she was going to whip her butt. Marsau, Maurice, and Martell are in the kitchen, and they are talking about how hard the past year has been on the friendship group as well as their personal lives. Martell said that the divorce really brought him down, and he believes that he also could be depressed. Marsau had said that he believed he was depressed. Martell said he also thinks he's feeling symptoms of depression. Maurice admits that he is also under the same type of stress that Marsau said he was under, and he believed that it's unhealthy and that their work life is very unbalanced with their personal lives. And I know that both Marsau and Tisha, that's his wife, and Maurice and Kimmy have had these one-on-ones about how unbalanced their work lives were when the woman was coming to him and saying, listen, you guys need to kind of slow down a bit, give your attention to other things. And both of them were pretty adamant that they weren't going to do it. But when they sit down with each other at this group, they're finally admitting that they are experiencing some very unhealthy stress. And so that was a breakthrough. Melody is shown packing her things, and in her confessional, she just says that she appreciates the invite to Vegas, but in the future, there will be no circumstances, absolutely no circumstances where she could be under the same roof with Martell for multiple days. And she's right about that, because they got into some ugly fights. Now they are back in Huntsville, and Tiffany goes and visits Melody at her office. And Tiffany, she basically does a pop-up because Melody hasn't returned any of her phone calls about the interns that she had made a request for. So when she shows up, Melody apologizes to her and tells her, when I came back from Vegas, I needed to take a break because, my energy was really low from my interactions with Martell, and she had to get herself back to a better place. And she told her that she feels better now and she was ready to move forward with the interns. Melody also apologized to Tiffany on behalf of Destiny, telling her that she was going to drag her when they were in Vegas. She said she never saw Destiny threaten a woman before, and she wanted Tiffany to know that Destiny is under a lot of pressure, that she's not been herself since the divorce, and she didn't want her to see Destiny in a bad light. Tiffany tells her that her and Destiny agreed to meet up, and she's hoping that they can be in a better place. That was good. I know that I watched Melody do an interview on the Ladies First panel that's also on YouTube, and they talked to her about the blow up with between Destiny and Tiffany, and they were like, do you feel like you should pull back a little bit more when things go down between Destiny and Tiffany? And Melody basically said that, it's really hard to gauge what's going on between the two of them, because even though they had that real big blowout where threats were thrown back and forth between each other, when they got back on the bus immediately after leaving that venue, they were laughing and joking around with each other. So she was like, you know, I know that the person that I am watching having these back and forths is not the person that I'm used to. So she does believe that it is her job to interject or get in between the two of them so that Destiny can show her best self, because the self that she's showing isn't who she really is. And that's who she believes is her job to do as a friend. And I get that. So kudos to Mel. And I also said, you know, when Destiny had that blowout, after she had the first blowout with Tiffany, and she was like, you know, Miss Tiffany this, and she brought me cold tea and all that mess. When Maurice had cussed Tiffany out or gave her a stern talking to, Tiffany started crying, and Destiny went over and hugged Tiffany. So which is it? Do you want to, you know, drag her or give her a hug? Like, you know, it's confusing to all of us, basically. So I know that I follow both Tiffany and Destiny on IG, and they follow each other, and Destiny likes all of her posts, all of Tiffany's posts. So perhaps things have been resolved since filming. Let's hope. Anywho, in the next scene, Martell brings Martell Jr. over to Lewis's baseball camp, and he is hoping to give him a little training. So Lewis has a love for baseball, which is why Tiffany surprised him with a wedding at the new baseball stadium in Huntsville that everybody talked about. That was a big rumor, like who does that kind of thing. But Tiffany had us made that surprise for him. Anyway, Martell Jr., he's throwing a few pitches, and he's hitting a few balls with Lewis's sons. They're talking to him. And Lewis says that he thinks that he could train him, that he has a good arm. He thinks that he can be a talent. So he grabs Martell Sr. Lewis grabs Martell Sr. They walk away, and he basically says, you know, what happened? Like, who were you in Vegas? Because again, Martell was completely out of pocket with how he was handling himself. And the men kept being called on to run over and grab him so that he would not get into it with Melody. And Martell says he was a little out of pocket, but you know, for the most part, he knows how to control himself. And Lewis says off camera in confessional, what he saw in Vegas, Martell in no way, shape, or form knows how to control himself. Like, there is a lot going on with him, and he needs to get some therapy or something to work at getting his emotions in check when he is discussing or talking to Melody. But Martell, after telling that, asks for some advice and says he's looking to ask Melody for full custody of the children, which, you know, what? Anyway, right now they share 50-50 custody. 50-50 custody with Melody. He does. They do 7 days on, 7 days off. Lewis said he was, he basically says, how do you think she's going to take that? And he was like, well, she probably going to get a little upset. And he was like, kind of just giggled it off. Like, I don't know you well enough to give you the advice I really want to give you, which is Negro what? But sure, whatever. Either way, Lewis tells Martell that he needs to keep his cool and, you know, approach the conversation with Melody in a very calm and rational manner. And, you know, Martell agrees to that advice. Either way, what Melody and Martell are going through is very textbook BS for men getting to it, either because they're going through the divorce, actively going through the divorce, or, you know, the divorce is over. They're still trying to find ways to get at each other. Right now, it is very much Martell trying to get at Melody, and it's all because she has moved on with her life in a way that he has not yet, period. She has multiple careers going. She seems to be successful at all of them. And she's taking care of the kids without complaining. She's already said when it's his time to have the kids, she doesn't think about what he's doing, who he's doing it with, where the kids are, because she can't put herself in that space. And I understand she has to cut it off. But he hasn't. He has a lot of free time to think about everything Melody's doing, and he's going to go after her however he can until he feels he can slow her down to where he is, basically. So let's just hope. Let's hope they can get it together. But he's asking for full custody of the kids because he says Melody has too many babysitters. Sure. That's interesting. I'm not saying what I want to say, but basically he's just really pissed that Melody got this singing career going. He's pissed that she has a song out there that is talking about his infidelities. What else does he have a problem with? He has a problem with people are singing that song, including his kids. What he doesn't have a problem with is the fact that everything she's singing about, we already saw on TV, that we enjoy the show, that we've watched all 3 seasons and talked about him like a dirty dog. Why he hasn't figured out how to either leave the show, or which he hasn't done. He'll be on next season as well. He's not doing any of those things. Why he wants to curb what Melody says in her music or stop her from singing those songs is beyond me. We already know the story. And Melody also said in that other interview that he has not yet told their children that they have a step sibling or a half brother sister, or I think it's a half brother. They don't have they have a half brother, which is dirty. He should have already told them kids that, but whatever. And that was as of, I believe, last week that they did that interview. So that baby is coming on 1 year old, I believe. So for them not to know anything about it yet says a lot about where his mind is. He should definitely have told them something. And the next scene we have the Scott brothers. And the Scott brothers, let me make sure I didn't miss anything. The Scott brothers are at dinner with their wives, Tisha and Kimmy. They call themselves collectively Scott 2.0. Kimmy tells Tisha that she looks exactly like her mother, Wanda. And Marsau says she looks like what? Not who, but what? And I hollered because, come on, Marsau. Everybody knows that Tisha and Wanda are twins. Kimmy tells Marsau that she was shocked when he told everybody in the group that he was experiencing symptoms of depression. And she hoped, as a clinician, it bothered her, and that she hopes that he will seek help. His brother even said to him, if you want to go, because you and I are both having some of the same experiences, why don't we go together? And Martell gave a hard no, absolute no, I'm not doing it. That was his exact words. And he's just said that he believes it's, some stress that he's going through because of work, and he hasn't been able to do, he's overworked, and he hasn't been doing some of the personal things he'd like to do for himself. But he believes that it will go away. Tisha feels it's a little more serious than that. She referenced that her aunt had just went through some problems that she didn't think was a big deal, and she ended up dying, and that she, she's nervous for Marsau. She's nervous for herself and the children. They want, Marsau to stick around and have a long life with them. And Marsau listened, but he was like, listen, you guys are basically like, oh, I injured my leg, go to the hospital and get surgery. He was like, we don't know what exactly is wrong. Right now, I just want to kind of go through the motions, fill it out. It's possible. It's just a light depression that'll go away on its own. And we all have experienced depression. Everybody in the world has experienced depression. It may be light depression. You may not even know you're depressed until you're out of it, or until you're in that next stage that's getting you a little further into that depression. So deep depression doesn't just pop up. It starts at a certain level, and then it keeps going down until your body's like, listen, figure out how to handle what's going on with you. You know what I'm saying? So he said that, right now, he believes that he's just going to work through it until he figures it out. And only Marsau knows exactly where he is, even though they're talking about it like it's a bigger deal. Tisha says she clearly knew something was wrong. But, again, there's a lot of things that happened that could have created the funk that Marsau is in right now. He's taken on this TV thing. So he has a lot of outside people in his business. We've gone through a pandemic that made everybody depressed on some level. He has these new businesses. He is overworking himself because he believes he needs to strike while the iron is hot, and he's not slowing down until he gets where he wants to go. And that makes perfect sense to me, even though he's saying he's depressed. At least he's acknowledging that he's depressed, and hopefully he will change his mind about getting help if he notices that it's getting worse or, much deeper. So that was their scene. And then the last one was Martell and Melody. Martell basically asked Melody to meet him out for coffee. And when the scene starts, Martell is already seated. He has a cup of green tea. Melody walks in. She walks straight to the table, greets him. They say their hellos, and Martell's like, "Oh, you don't want to get some coffee?" She was like, "Nope, I'm fasting. Meaning I'm not breaking bread. I'm not drinking tea. I'm not doing anything with you." And he got it. He was like, "Oh, okay, you're fasting on everything?" She was like, "Yep, everything." And then there's a little weird or awkward silence. And then, Melody kind of smirks like, "You invited me, and yet you can't say what you have to say," because he's about to talk to you about some dumb S. That's why. But she breaks the ice and she's like, "So, you invited me here. I guess you want to talk to me about something. And, what is it?" And they jump into the conversation. He basically says, they start talking a little bit about the incidents in Vegas and what triggers them to get to the spaces that they're in when they're blowing up at each other. Martell tries to blow it off like, "We're broken up now. People have ups and downs. That's normal." But Melody says, "Look, you had a very big down. Like, people had to restrain you twice within 24 hours from jumping in my face. So that's a very big down." Martell admits that it was a big down, and he tells her, "I apologize," which is normal. That's what he always does. Melody says, "You can keep your apologies. I'm not here for those, sir. I've heard it. I just want you to know that we are in an ugly space." After she tells him that, Martell jumps right on the petty train. Even though he's there for a very specific reason, he goes there with her and he tells her, "Listen, there's a lot of things that you should have apologized to me about." And he starts giving some examples, which they weren't good enough examples. Let's just say that. They were bullshit, BS, like a lot of the things he says. Melody reminds him, "Listen, you disrespected me in one of the worst ways possible." He says, "No, I didn't." Does he forget he had a whole outside baby? The answer is yes, which is why he's not telling his children. Do you just want that child to go away? You did disrespect her in one of the worst ways you could possibly disrespect your wife. You absolutely did. So he tells her he didn't. But Mel trumps him. He says, "No, I didn't. And you're disrespecting me right now by raising your voice to me in a public place." Melody checks him and said, "Listen, if you truly cared about public appearances, you would have kept your eggplant in the house instead of spreading it all around town, okay? Laying it low and spreading it wide." And he gives the prayer hand and said, "Okay, why don't we both reel it in? Okay, no big deal." Well, sir, you know she will always trump you with that. So it seems to me you would do everything you can not to get her there because you will lose every single time. But yada, yada, yada. Martell tells her basically, Martell has a problem with women. And I think he wrote something on the internet too. Like, women needs to learn their place and not talk back to their men or not talk back to a man. Who does that? He has 3 daughters. And he really is in a space in his head where he thinks women should not talk back or defend themselves against men. And Martell, probably Marsau too, but Martell, you were born 70 decades too late, sir. Figure out how to catch up with this time and place, with this century, because you are out of your mind. Mel asked him, get to the point so I can go. What did you bring me here for? And he basically says that he believes that she has too many babysitters and too many influences around his kids. And he wants the first rights whenever she leaves or has some sort of work engagement. He tells her she has 4 or 5 babysitters. Mel said, I don't have 4 or 5 babysitters. I only have 2. Martell pulls out his phone and attempts to give her dates and times and places where these other babysitters showed up. And Melody like humored him for a half a second and said, I only had to get other babysitters, and they are usually family, and the last one was your cousin, because you are unable to pick the kids up when it is your day and time. And he didn't want to hear that. But they go back and forth a couple of times between that. Martell, somewhere in an interview, says, even though Melody just says, I only have 2 babysitters, I want full custody of the kids because I believe I can do it better than you. And I only have, 2 babysitters. Well, that's all she has is 2 babysitters. That's exactly what she said to you. And she was able to give you dates and times, or basically refute your dates and times when you said you had one here and this is number 3 and this one's number 4. Those number 3s and number 4s were family members who came in place of the dates and times you missed, okay? So Martell, again, is just a mess. So he smirks and he basically says, I think I'm going to ask the judge for full custody, to which Melody shut it completely down. Martell says he wants custody. She said, go ahead and file a petition if that's what you think. If that's what you want, you file a petition, because right now the kids will be with me. Martell pulls out the bag. I've been getting the girl's hair done. And before she didn't even let him finish the sentence. She said, for a full year, Martell, I've been getting the kids' hair done, buying them clothes, shoes, paying their tuition, because you didn't have the money. And he smiled and said, well, I got it now. And she said, cool, file a petition, because if you don't, I will. So clearly she was saying, you're doing stuff that you should be doing and you're not. So if you want to play this petty ass tit for tat game, go on ahead and file a petition, because I will file one for you, because you're not meeting your end of the obligation. You are not doing what the judge ordered when you're supposed to pick them kids up. And I can play that game with you too. And when I tell you he put his head in his hands and shook his head because he knew damn well that he was wrong, and he only played that card because he knew he was wrong. Martell 0, Melody 1,000. He loses every time, every single time. And he will be losing again on this Saturday, and I cannot wait to watch. So please come back and we will talk about what's going on with the 13th episode. I believe there's like maybe 4 left, and it gets pretty heated between all parties. So I'm looking forward to it.